Everyone, I'm Shelley Lyle.
And I'm Jessica Francis.
And welcome to Voices from the Field, a podcast brought to you by the Department of Sport Management at the University of Florida. This podcast was created to share the career journeys of sport industry professionals. Our hope is that you learn the ins and outs of different sport industry professions. We're excited to be with you all this week and with our special guest, Ronald Boyett, Manager of Inside Sales with the Washington Nationals.
Ronald has a strong background in sports, working in various jobs and roles in areas such as operations and events, sales and billing, recreation, strength training, and being an account executive. He's worked at some very notable places like Madison Square Garden and our very own O'Connell Center. And he's currently a manager of inside sales with the Washington Nationals. He's also an alum. He received his bachelor's degree in sport management from the University of Florida. We're so happy to have him on the podcast with us today.
Excited to be here.
We're so glad to have you.
I'm a diehard Gator fan, so I'm very, very excited to be here to talk to you all about everything UF.
Awesome. Well, let's get started. Tell us a little bit about your career journey, starting with University of Florida. And when did you know you wanted to work in sports and sales in particular?
So I actually was against sales when I graduated. I knew I wanted to work in sports, but I had a negative connotation. I thought that salespeople were sleazy car salesmen. So I was kind of against that. But once I graduated, I found a lot of the openings were in sports. And I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to work in the sports industry. And with my work ethic, I could figure it out from there. And then pretty much the only full-time roles that I could find were in sales. And then I realized a lot of stuff that I care about, I got within the sports industry and within sales. And I just grew it about pretty quickly. And I've enjoyed it ever since.
That's awesome. And in your current position, what are your daily duties and roles? And what are some responsibilities you think most students wouldn't know that go into sales?
I am in charge of 8 inside sales reps. So it's an entry-level sales team. So I hire them, I train and develop them, I grow them into professionals. I take them from day one, knowing nothing, recent college grads, and teach them all about the business of sports and the business of sales. So my day-to-day, a lot of it depends on what the day is and what campaigns we're running. So right now we're focusing on getting ready for our 2024 fiscal. And then we're also still finishing up our groups and suites business for the rest of this season. So depending on the day, my day-to-day is always changing, from strategy and planning meetings for next year to interviews to bring on more talent for my actual team, to one-on-ones, to trainings, to working a game day. We've got a game day in a few hours. So I'll be working the game today. So every single day is a little bit different for me. I think like most people, I just didn't have any idea what sales actually was like. And I had a wrong connotation about how it is to be a professional salesperson and what it means to be a good sales rep. And it took me a while to really change my perception. I think there's just a lot of misconception about what sales is.
And if you don't mind sharing a few of those, I'm sure you're not the only student who's had those thoughts. Like, I just don't want to do sales. So yeah, if you can give us a little insight into that.
Yeah. So when people think sales, they think like door-to-door salesman, car salesman, where it's like, I have to sell you. I've got to be super aggressive, super persuasive. And in reality, sales is all about listening and asking really good questions to figure out what's really important to people. And most people like talking about what they care about. So if you ask me about my time at Florida, I'll light up and I'll talk about it for hours upon end. And it's the same sort of thing that we do on the sales side, where we ask about what's most important to people. Everybody loves to talk about their family, their friends, what they do for work in DC in particular. And then once you figure out what's important to them, you make a recommendation of how you can actually help them get closer to what they really care about. And then at the end of the day, they make the decision for themselves. In sales, if you try to really sell somebody and really convince them to buy, a lot of times you shoot yourself in the foot, because nobody likes to be sold. Everybody likes to buy stuff, but the second somebody thinks you're trying to sell them, quote unquote, they put up a wall right away and they will listen to anything you have to say. So our job is half is it to educate and then ask good questions to figure out what's most important to people, make a recommendation based off that, and then at the end of the day, let them make the decision for themselves.
Awesome. Thanks. That's super helpful. I know that can easily be a misconception of sales, and, the whole idea of breaking into sport being this, like, you have to start at sales, because everything else is difficult, but there's so much more to sales than what I think our students typically know about it.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
And so with your leadership role, how would you say that you've gone, especially with your background being a UF grad, how has your leadership evolved within the industry?
When I first joined the sports industry, I was all me, me, me. I want to focus on my own career and getting better. And I didn't really care about my teammates very much. So early on in my career, the easiest way to say it is I rubbed people a little bit the wrong way, just because I was like, I finally have a chance to make it on my own. I want to do everything that I can. So I grew and developed really, really quickly. And then I realized that because I wanted to keep growing and developing, and a lot of like my younger teammates looked up to me, I had like a real responsibility to actually help them grow and develop. And then I realized that I enjoyed doing that more than really anything else. So I have an example of Sarah Solomon, who went to University of Florida as well, who worked at MSG with me. She was in inside sales and then got promoted to our account executive team. And the day she got promoted, she sent me this really long text message about how much of an impact I made on her, how she was so thankful for my guidance, just being like a mentor to her. And the same day, I closed like a 6-figure self-prospected deal, which at the time was great for me. But the text message I got from Sarah just meant so much more than the actual like large sale deal that I closed. And so I realized very quickly that like the most important thing is the impact you make on others, and knowing that your reps actually care about you before anything else. And so that's like the mindset that I've had with my team now, is making sure before anything else, they know I actually care about them and want to help them grow and develop. And then I was just very, very lucky at MSG to have great mentors and leaders that helped me see things in myself that I didn't really see at first. And a lot of that is with having honest and open conversations in order to get better. And I try to have like a judgment-free zone, is like a cliche way of saying it. But like my job is to help my team get paid and promoted. So anything I can do to help them either make more money and help them to reach their goals, like that is what I do. And I think my team buys into the stuff that I teach them, because at the end of the day, like, we're all here to get better, get paid, and get promoted.
Wow, I love that. I am such a huge proponent for mentorship and that networking piece. And I think it's really special when students go from being the mentee to being the mentor. And so I really enjoyed that answer. In that type of reflection, can you tell us what's one thing you wish you had known before you began your career?
I think that I wish that I didn't take it for granted quicker. So when I first graduated, I didn't really do any real effort to find a full-time role. I kind of was just applying online and hoping that I get a job. And the sports industry is so competitive. There are very few openings that's just not a great approach. I didn't do any networking. I didn't go to any career fairs. I was applying on Teamwork online. And then I got a part-time role like pretty soon after graduating. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to get a full-time role for this. It's great. I don't need to put any extra effort. Like, I got this. And then I got to the final round of interviews and I ended up not getting the job. And honestly, that was like a career eye-opening moment for me. Is like, I'm kind of squandering and wasting this opportunity to make in the sports industry. Like, what am I doing? I actually have a chance. And like, ever since that day, I've kind of had a chip on my shoulder and have never taken for granted like the real opportunity that I have to make it in the sports industry. I wish I had known that a little bit quicker. But I think that was like one of the, as like sad as it is, like one of the best things that happened in my career was not getting that first job.
I love that. Those setbacks sometimes make for a major comeback. So love that.
Yeah, it was tough at the time though. But I mean, it really was great in hindsight. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think it speaks to like the growth that you've had obviously, and going like, yeah, I'm just going to do this. And then you realize that it actually is really difficult and it's going to require, which is why you're probably really good at training other individuals in the industry, right? And preparing them to do the work because you've had to learn the hard way.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead. Do you want to add something there?
No, I love training and developing, and I think it's very, very important because like I have like a brand new fresh team, and it's really important that in your first role that your manager cares about you and they really give you the accurate resources to get better. Because like a lot of my team, it's their first job. They've never lived on their own. A lot of them have never had to pay rent or pay bills, never pay for groceries, all of that kind of stuff. And everybody's situation is different. Like some of my team is moving across the country, so they're homesick. So it really is important that they have the resources to get better and the amount of training and developing to both grow as a salesperson and then just like a professional in general.
Awesome. And speaking about resources, can you share a few that you feel like are some of the best resources you've used to help you get where you are today?
I think I've done a really good job of always going to my network and people in the industry that are more experienced than me and asking for feedback and picking their brain. Every few weeks, even to this day, like I will hit up an industry leader and ask them to pick their brain on a certain topic. And I started to do that very early on in my sales career. So whenever I would get off a call and I'd be like, I don't know why they didn't buy, I don't know what I did wrong or what I could have done differently, I would immediately go talk to my manager or talk to another rep and say, hey, can you give me some feedback? Can you help? And I realized that I would start to grow and develop a lot quicker if I always was self-reflective about what I was doing, an area of opportunity. Like I say, if you make it, everybody's going to make a mistake. So it's not like I messed up, but this is an opportunity for me to get better. And it's easier said than done. And a lot of times it's very humbling. But at the end of the day, my mindset was I want to improve. I want to get better. And so I've been very, very good about using my resources and like the people around me, from my peers to like the leadership team that I had at the Garden and now here, to always think about how can we get better? How can we get improved?
That's awesome. And again, like I love it. You're like leading us into the next question. So who are three really influential people for you, and how have they impacted you in your career journey?
First one's Ramon Montero, who I think his title is Senior Director of Suite Sales and Service for the Denver Broncos. I talked about a little bit about how your manager needs to know you care about you before like anything else. Until he was my boss when I was an account executive, I didn't have that in the slightest. So one day he called me into his office and it really changed my perception. He was like, hey, I was brand new. I had just been promoted and I didn't really have any say on the team, but he brought me and a couple other veterans in your office. And he was like, hey, how do we get more people to care and put in the effort that you guys are? And I was like, why am I in this room? I just got here. I just got promoted. I'm just trying to figure it out on my own. And ever since then, like I've realized you need to care of people. So he was the reason why I have that opinion and why it's the basis of my leadership style. So I would like run through a brick wall for Herman, like right now, if you ask me to. That's definitely number one. I think number two is probably Demi McEntee, who was my inside sales manager for a little bit at MSG. And for her, I'm very loud and I'm very good at arguing and a lot of times very articulate in my point of view. So a lot of times when I am having a discussion, some people can feel a little overwhelmed with my viewpoints. And Demi is somebody who's very strong-minded the same way I am. And she had done a really good job of always getting me to slow down. And every time I couldn't see a different viewpoint or couldn't figure something out, she was always very good at helping me to see both sides, like whatever the small stuff was, and really pushed me to grow and develop and get outside of my comfort zone. And when I thought I was doing something at a pretty high level, make sure I was always putting my foot on the gas and improving. And then the third one, probably Brendan Long, who's the VP of ticket sales at MSG. I just think he's very sharp about the way he thinks about strategy and long-term planning about the business of sports. And he would always let me pick his brain like whenever I wanted. And so every once in a while, I'd come to the office, say, hey, I've got 2 questions. And I would just pepper him with 2 or 3 questions just to get his viewpoint, because I really enjoyed what his opinions and perspective on stuff was. And he never said, go away, stop asking me these questions. He always gave me the time of day and always wanted to help me grow and develop. And I don't think I ever told him that when I was at MSG, but I already appreciated the fact that no matter what questions I had, or no matter how important or not important the topic was, he was always able to give me feedback and give me his perspective, which was very helpful.
I love hearing about how your influential people have kind of molded you, because I can definitely hear that leadership style of care and pouring into the people that you work with. And so that's really cool to see how they've impacted you in that way. Kind of a little bit shifting gears, since you've been in the field for a number of years now and you've had such varied experience, how do you see the industry growing or changing in the next 1 to 2 years?
Technology and automation. So there's a lot of automation tools that a lot of teams can use. I guess I can back up. A lot of teams are smaller in how many sales reps they have. And there's an infinite number of really quality leads and companies and businesses that either want to go out to games or want to entertain clients or do team happy hours, all of that kind of stuff. And a lot of sales teams don't have the bandwidth to really handle all of those individual accounts and then business accounts. And there's a lot of technology tools that are slowly getting into a lot of sports teams. Now, some teams are very far ahead and have a lot of those technology tools, but I think the majority of sports teams don't. And I think as the next couple of years goes on, a lot of teams will start to use automation. So one thing that we're looking to do is an automated email journey for a lot of our group clients who are going to come back every year. If a company's done a team outing 4 or 5 years in a row, there's a pretty good chance they're going to do something similar over the next few years. So rather than having the reps send the same 3 or 4 emails every single year from October to December, why don't we have a system built out for a couple thousand of those companies and accounts, have it automated and built out so they don't have to do that administrative work, and all they can focus on is the actual buying conversations and quality conversation with those companies. That would be the first example. There's a lot of small nuances in that sort of general realm of how to use automation to take away a lot of the administrative stuff from the reps so they can focus on selling large accounts and driving revenue.
That makes a lot of sense. I can see how the company could run more efficiently by not having to focus on those little tasks like that. So that makes a lot of sense. And so we're doing this podcast for our students who are interested in careers in sport. So can you offer any suggestions to our students on how they can prepare to be in a position like yours?
Because mine, the first thing is, do they care about growing and developing people? When I was a rep at first, I thought I wanted to get into leadership because it was a cool job and a cool title. And then as I learned that it's really important to care about your people, I think the first step is understanding and knowing that you either care about growing and developing people before anything else, or you care about the strategy side of the business. I don't think you should get into leadership if you don't care about your teammates. And you can be a leader when you're a rep. You can lead laterally. And I think a lot of the skill sets that I have now, I was very lucky to be able to develop as a rep. So my managers in MSG let me do trainings, let me do one-on-ones, do call coaching with my teammates, that sort of stuff. So anything that I wanted to do when I became a manager, I got to develop those skills as a rep. Now, sometimes it's just tough to have a difficult conversation with one of your friends that you go out with all the time. But I knew I wanted to get into leadership. And so it was a great experience for me to be able to do that when I was a rep. So if you want to get into leadership one day when you are on a team, it's really important to develop a lot of those skills when you are a rep and lead laterally. And then if it's just a student looking to get into the sports industry, I think the most important thing is not just applying for a role online, but actively reaching out to the hiring managers. If you're looking to get into inside sales, you can easily go on LinkedIn and type in inside sales manager XYZ team. And I don't know of any inside sales managers that wouldn't set up an informational call with you if you sent them a nicely worded email and a LinkedIn message.
That's awesome. Super helpful. And I hope our students who are listening know that we're not paying you to say that. I mean, we tell them all the time how important LinkedIn is. We've done a lot. We've added that into the curriculum quite a bit now. And we talk about networking. Jessica and I's job is to, build opportunities for students to network. And so that's awesome to hear you say that.
One of my reps went to University of Florida, graduated in June. And he hit me up on LinkedIn, and that started the conversation and actually ended up hiring him. So it's not just me saying it. I literally hired a 2023 grad from the University of Florida who hit me up on LinkedIn as the first conversation.
There we go. Love the application right there. Well, and going into that a little bit more, would just love to hear, for students, like you said, networking is really important. What about internships and things like that? Do you have any insight or things you wish you would have done? I felt like you would have prepared you, or, you guys look for different interns throughout the year, things like that.
I think my internships showed me what I didn't want to do, which I think was just as important as what I wanted to. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I graduated, but I knew exactly what I did not want to do. I wanted to do nothing with events, nothing with like game day, nothing with marketing. I got great experience doing those sort of internships, but realized very quickly I would not enjoy the sports industry as that was my full-time role. And so it helped me gear what jobs I was not going to apply for. And I think for students, the biggest thing is showing during the interview process how your experience is going to help translate to the role and what specific skills, not just what you did, but what actual skill set did you either learn that you want to improve upon or develop that's going to apply directly to this role. And when you are going through the interview process, especially for a lot of inside sales teams, because it is entry level, we don't really care as much about the specific experience, but it's what skill set do you want to get better at? Have you shown effort throughout your time in college to learn more about that specific skill set? And how can I help you get to where you want to go one day? So if you tell me you want to do marketing one day, it's perfectly fine if I had a couple of reps that had a marketing background. Did you do any marketing internships throughout college? Right? If you say you want to work with game day operations one day, did you do any of that when you were in college or your internships? Even if it was on the smaller side, like that shows me that you actually have given it some thought and put in effort when you were at school more than anything else.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really helpful for our students to hear, just because I think, they have various ideas on how to get in or when they need to, I'll wait till my junior or senior year, but we've definitely amped up even in our curriculum from having an intro class now for our freshmen and a senior class to our grad program having like, hey, what are you doing once you step on campus, especially in the athletic world, given our connections with the UAA and things like that. So there is always opportunity. So I love that you said that. And on a more personal note, how do you stay healthy in a really high-paced, high-demand environment of sports and sales?
Yeah, so my phrase is, when you're here, work your butt off. When you're not here, you're not working. Because in the sports industry, we have to work long hours. I'm a big proponent of when you are not at work, you do not take your laptop home. One of my reps was going on vacation to Tampa, and he was like, hey, should I take my laptop? I have some clients that are probably reach out to me. And I was like, no, you're not allowed to take your laptop. Send them an out-of-office email and say, if you need anything, to email Ron. And I think it's really important because in the sports industry, you are going to have to work long hours. So one of my reps worked Monday night to about 9 and Tuesday night to about 9. At the Nationals, we're pretty flexible on if you do a couple of game days, be able to come in late. So he's coming in the office at 11 a.m. today because he worked back-to-back nights, pretty long hours. Every team's going to be different, but I think it's really important to pace yourself because sports is very long hours, especially during the season. So any opportunity that you can to not work, take advantage of it.
I love that advice. I once was told that work-life balance is about doing exactly that. It's not necessarily giving less to one or the other. It's just giving what you need at that time. So love that advice. Since you're into hiring and looking for new employees, what kind of qualifications do you look for when you're hiring? And with that, do you have any suggestions for students who are also navigating the industry as a new hire?
Yeah, so I look for things that aren't on a resume, which is it's tough. So I will interview a lot of candidates just because a lot of the qualities that I know translates to a successful sales rep don't show up on a resume. So consistent effort, like on a day when University of Florida won a football game, you got 8 hours of sleep, you got coffee. What's your effort look like on that day versus we just got blown out, Starbucks was closed, you got 4 hours of sleep. And that's the sort of stuff that doesn't show up on a resume. I look for somebody that can positively impact your peers. So a few examples of like what you actually were doing in college to either build up your friends or teammates or your coworkers we had an internship with, and then being able to have like a real conversation and listening well. Those are things that don't show up on a resume, but are things that directly translate to sales. Like I can teach you what to say and how to say it, but I can't teach you to quote unquote work hard, to positively impact your peers, to put in good effort. So that's all the stuff that I look for throughout the interview process. The biggest thing that I look for on a resume is, were you busy in college and did you put in some effort to get experience in whatever you're interested in, even if long-term you realize that's not the right fit for me. And then for new grads that are in the sports industry, it can feel very overwhelming early on, especially because a lot of inside sales teams have a start and stop date. It's really important to take it day by day and make the most out of every day. Like the cliche thing is 1% better today. But honestly, in inside sales, like that's the name of the game, is using every day as an opportunity to get better and looking at it as an interview and doing what you can to improve day in and day out. I say a lot of cliche stuff, but that's because I think for like just for sales in general, a lot of cliche stuff applies.
Yeah, hey, it's working here. I feel motivated. I'm like, maybe I should go into sales. I'm like, this is working on me. So if our listeners wanted to connect with you, what would you say is the best way? Is it best for them to reach out on LinkedIn, reach out through email? How can our students kind of connect with you if they're interested in learning more?
LinkedIn and email. I will always respond to a LinkedIn or email. You can use my Nationals email. So it's just ronald.boyett@nationals.com, or hit me up on LinkedIn. If somebody does hit me up on LinkedIn, I will always set up a conversation and have an informal interview. Right now, my team is filled, which is great. I'm onboarding one rep right now. But even so, like I will still set up an informational interview, because in inside sales, like I have reps that get promoted pretty quickly, and I'm have to fill more spots. So the larger my pipeline is for qualified candidates that want to get into sales, the less time and effort I have to spend on recruiting, the more I can spend on actually developing my current team.
That's great. So hopefully our students take you up on that. I know I did this morning. I found you on LinkedIn, so we're now connected. I know this to be true. So before we wrap things up on Voices from the Field, we like to have a little fun. And so we have a rapid fire Q&A for you, chocked full of lighthearted questions, of course. So Shelly's going to lead us.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we always have a little rapid fire way to get to know you kind of outside of just the sports industry. So what I'm going to do is I set an alarm on my phone for 1 minute. And I will just start asking you questions. I'll let you know when I start and when I end. And you just answer right off the cuff. If there's any questions you don't want to answer, you're welcome to pass, and we'll just see how many you get through in 1 minute. Does that sound all right?
Sounds great.
Okay. Okay, let me start the timer. Here we go. When you were little, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Power Ranger.
Favorite sport to play?
I ran track my freshman year at UF a little bit, so I guess that.
Okay, what's the worst haircut you've ever had?
Every haircut. My haircut, I have a weird shaped head, so I always get a bad haircut.
Okay, name 2 daily habits.
I always eat a banana for breakfast, and I try to go to the gym 5 times a week, no matter what.
Okay. Favorite zoo animal.
Ooh, a snake.
Okay. What was the last book you read?
A Star Wars book. Oh, a sales book, but that doesn't count.
Okay. First job.
I was a ACT math tutor.
And mountains or beaches.
Beaches. I would live on a beach if I could.
Favorite type of food.
Italian or Mexican.
And favorite holiday.
Christmas.
Awesome. That's our time. 1 minute is up. Good job. Okay, the snake. That is so funny to me. Well, not really funny. I just don't like snakes. But
I hate snakes.
You hate snakes, you said?
Yes. They're. I'm scared of snakes. So I don't know. It's weird. I appreciate the fact that snakes scare me. Most animals don't. I'm terrified of snakes. I appreciate that snakes scare me.
Yeah, that makes that makes sense because I don't know many. No one has yet said. I think we're on fourth season. Anyways, we've interviewed quite a few people, and most people, giraffes, lion, like it's so funny. They all kind of say the same thing, but no one has said a snake. So I just needed some clarity on what the snake held for you. So yeah.
No, it's just I'm scared of snakes. It's the only animal I'm scared of. I'm terrified of snakes. So I see them like, respect. 10 feet away.
Yeah. Do you have one that you look for? Like, is there one type that is like the scariest for you?
I don't have one type that's the scariest. Backstory why I'm scared of snakes is I was like 4 or 5 living in Memphis, Tennessee, and my brother picked up a snake in our backyard, and it was a tiny garden snake, and threw it at me, and it bit me. And ever since then, been a little bit scared of snakes. So.
Oh gosh, how traumatic!
Yeah.
That is tough. I thoroughly enjoyed all of your answers. It took a lot to stay quiet and not want to comment. So I appreciate all your answers. Thank you so much for joining us today and taking the time to share your professional endeavors with us. I'm certain that the University of Florida Department of Sport Management students, faculty, and alumni appreciate and value your thoughts today. For all of our people out there watching and listening, please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're at UFSPM, and we are your hosts, Jessica Francis
and Shelly Lyle, and go Gators.
Woo!
All right.